So some of the worst things that you think that are like, questioning God, why did this happen to me, turned out to be the best things that happened. Like, thank you for not letting me get that position or failing at that, because it opened the door to this. I mean, I just always think that way, so.
All right, welcome everybody back to the Bliss Seekers podcast. Today we have a special guest. He has 14 years as an elementary school teacher. He was the union rep at every school site he's ever been to. He's an N.E.A. national delegate, California teaching state delegate, CTA PAC committee member, elected entire Los Angeles, former vice chair, CTA Hispanic caucus. UTLA, which stands for United Teachers Los Angeles Charter School Organizing Committee member, Parent Community Organizing Community San Fernando Valley, wrote the plan and named the school the Smart Academy, stands for Science, Math, and Art, former president of Pacoima Neighborhood Council, chair of education for Community PNC, and vice chair of the P.T.A. And they used to call him Big Mike G in the East Bay. Welcome to the podcast, Mike Gonzales. How's it going?
Pretty good. Good to be here. We go way back, like family. So
yeah, that's very true. I grew up with Mike's cousin, a gentleman by the name of Daniel. We were friends since we were 12.
Best friends.
Back then, right? We were really good friends back then. Best friends since we were 12, and that's where I met Mike. Right. So
right.
Again, welcome to the podcast. And so you're recently back in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been back in the Bay Area?
I would say March, because of COVID, pandemic, virtual teaching. So the plan was always to come back to the Bay Area. My dream was to come back, but I wanted to come back with something.
Yeah.
So I sold my house and then was planning on coming back, and so everything just worked out. My whole life I would describe as my life written out. Like, there's so many people that came in my life. I'm very thankful that they came in my life, and just life was planned out, and like great things happened, So.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny because I came back to the Bay Area too in 2008, but it wasn't really planned. So, but we're both back here in the Bay. But tell us a little bit about that, about growing up. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. I know you grew up in Union City.
Okay. But first, when I'm coming back, this is election year. I always wanted to come back as run for this New Haven School Board, and so I'm doing that now, and I'm collecting all these endorsements. I just want to tell you a quick story. Last night I endorsed for the Alameda County Labor Council, and
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so and it was the other candidate. I'm taking on an incumbent. She's already on the school board, and this is for Area 3. But when they did the intros, I knew it was union because we, Union City, we union folks. And so, and that's something I pride myself. And so how I introduced myself is, Mike Gonzales, lifelong educator, unionist, activist, fighting for social justice. And then I held up a picture, a very special picture of mine. It's both my grandmothers holding up a picket sign on strike. My brother and sister are there, and then my mom took the picture. And so 1976, Hunt's Cannery, Hayward, California. Both my grandparents were on strike, and my mom was on strike too, pregnant with me. So I was raised on the picket line. So I introduced myself like that to the union. They was like, and so caught her. I like really annihilated her when on the interview, killed every single question. Just because I could speak truth to power because I lived it.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about my experience in L.A. Had an amazing career in L.A. But getting back to where I grew up, Union City.
Wait, so real quick. So your mom was picketing, basically
on strike.
Strike, basically kind of fighting for the same types of values that you're fighting for now.
Absolutely.
Did you know about that growing up?
I knew about the pitch, and that's another story too about the picture. I said, Mom, when I ran for this ABC committee, it's a statewide, 800 delegates, have to vote for you. And so, and it's all across California, so I got to get them to vote for me. And so I was like, Mom, you got to find that picture. It's, Grandma and Grandpa, Valerie and Ralph, if I have that picture, like that's going to give me so much credibility,
Yeah.
and teaching's a matriarchal profession. And so, not that was trying to cater to the women, but, they have the union and, feminists, and it was, and that weekend was the women's march. And so, it all worked out, and she found it, and then I'm looking at the picture, and my mom goes, "You were there too, Michael." I was, "What?" And she goes, "I was pregnant with you, when I took that picture." And of course, pregnant women don't want to take a picture to be in the picture,
Yeah.
big pregnant. And so she didn't, that's why she didn't take the picture or get in the picture. Embarrassed about her weight, but, yeah, it would have been even better if she was in the picture. But, I still got the story, still got that picture. Both my grandmothers, I'm very proud of, Carmen and Helen. Yeah, so that's my story,
Wow.
So, yeah.
And by the way, as you guys know, this is the Bliss Seekers podcast. We always try to find people that are following their purpose or living their purpose and following their bliss. And I've known Mike for the longest time, and he's always been very, very passionate about education and about, politicizing and helping good causes. And now you're learning that you were already picketing in the womb. So you've been doing this since the womb.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Well, let's go back to your upbringing in the East Bay.
So Union City, my very first school where I started, I was a teacher assistant. I met some of my colleagues. This is East LA, Eastman Avenue Elementary School. And so I met people, and they asked me where I'm from. This one guy asked me, I said, Union City. And he goes, Dakota? And then I go,
wow.
yeah, you know my neighborhood? And so, there's no Union City without Dakota. It's a historical area. They incorporated Alvarado and Dakota together. So it gives me a lot of pride, Union City, being from Union City. And people know it. I can tell you stories. My ex-girlfriend from Pacoima, her cousin, she was an educator, but her cousins were gangsters. And so she had a cousin who just got out of jail. He did like 25 years, and everybody called him the boss. And he was the shot caller for Nuestra Familia. No, not
wow.
Nuestra. I'm sorry, Leme. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Is that Bay Area?
No, so Norteños and Sureños, and so for the Sureños, he was the shot caller in prison for them. But I happened to we caught up with him. And I introduced him. I said, Union City. And he goes, again, Dakota? Yeah, I know you guys. You know what I mean? So, Union City is gangster. You know what I mean? People have been putting in work. I can tell you stories about Union City. So, like the church I grew up, Our Lady of the Rosary, the chief of police was assassinated there. In church, what's going on?
Oh man!
And
place
so
of worship, they got
yeah,
it.
you know what I
Sounds
mean?
like a movie,
Yeah,
actually.
so where does that happen? You know what I mean? And yeah, so in the park I grew up across the street too is named William Cann, named after that chief of police who was assassinated.
Oh,
so
wow.
in church.
What year was this?
This is 74.
Okay.
Yeah,
74.
so-
Wow. Even in the 70s, that's a big deal.
Right. So so my parents from the Dakota side, grandparents came in the 50s, and so my grandpa Jose Bracero program, and had a couple of houses around Union City that they moved around, and each house you can drive around, and my grandpa did his brick, entire house front is brick, and that was his thing. But he was he worked for the steel mill, U.S. steel mill.
What is the
union guy.
Bracero program?
Bracero program during World War II, we needed labor. And so, a lot of men overseas fighting in the war. And so we had a shortage of labor. And so that was a contract between the United States and Mexico to bring in laborers to come in. And so, my grandfather started off working in the fields. Both of his brothers and nephews were able to get on that program, but my grandfather stayed. So,
Wow.
yeah.
How many
And met
years
my
have
grandmother.
you guys been there, your family? How many years in Union City?
Since the 50s.
Since the
9th
50s.
Street, and then my mom came in the 60s.
From where?
13th Street. So the other side of me is my mom's Okies from Oklahoma. During the Depression, they came over here. They came to the Imperial Valley picking cotton, and then they made their way to Richmond. And they worked in the we only had like actually one aunt who worked in the Richmond Shipyard. That's where Rosie the Riveter. And so during World War II, they were doing riveting, working on building ships, battleships, in Richmond. And so that's where my family settled. They love that nice, fresh, cool bay breeze, you know.
Yeah.
So
Bay breeze.
Yeah.
But tell us about your family then. I know you have a decent sized family, brothers, sisters.
Yeah, so I'm the baby in my family. Older sister is a teacher in San Jose.
Okay. So education's big in your family.
Education, my mom worked for Head Start and then did daycare.
Okay. Kind of like Daniel's mom.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it about daycare and the women in your family?
And then actually the other two sisters were paraprofessionals, and so they worked for in Union City
Okay.
for the district. My aunt's retired, and my other aunt's still working, almost retired. So yeah,
Okay.
we got that. And then other two uncles were firefighters. My dad's side. My father went to Vietnam. He was in the Air Force. Fought there.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah,
Mr.
And then
Gonzales.
he did 25 years in the Army Reserves.
Okay.
I got that.
So long time military man.
Yeah, but the Army Reserves is like a week and a month. So his main 9 to 5 was we worked at the it's for aluminum cans. It was he's
Recycling center?
No,
Oh.
no, making cans. So it was steel worker.
Okay.
He was a steel worker.
Okay, gotcha.
And he was 25 years. Worked at that factory, and they closed it actually. And but he was able to get a pension out of there, 25 years. And then worked a couple of other odd jobs. But he was a union rep there, and he was on the negotiation team. He was on grievance. He was on strike 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, so heavy in the union. So I got that background.
So both of your parents were union strikers,
Right.
like very fighting for people's rights.
And that was my intention. Like I wanted a union job in high school. Like I never planned to go to college, SATs. Like forget that. Like I want a union job. Some good pay, good benefits. So speaking of that, when did you kind of transition into like the education? Because I know you're very passionate about education. Ever since I've known you, and you started to decide about your career, how did that happen? Okay, so getting back to union job, getting a union job, getting a good paid job is it never happened when I got out of high school. Barely got through, skin of my teeth, and
Don't worry, I'm right
got
here
crappy
with you.
job after crappy job, and I see who was advancing, people with education. They got a degree, they got an AA, and so I never got that union job, never got a good job. So I was like, you know what? I don't care if I even did the same crappy job, as long as I have a little AA degree or something, it means a lot to me, because I know that was the biggest accomplishment actually was graduating high school. I was so happy to get out of high school. And so actually when I think about my school, growing up, I struggled in school. I actually had a learning disability, and so it held me back. I was not successful like my peers, and I was like one of the, and then again in high school I learned that actually I was smart in other areas, math and, history and like stuff I was into. But like when it came to reading, I was low, I was like at in middle school, 3rd grade level. I was always back. I would go, sometimes they actually every year they would take me to like for a period, resources. There's a resource center, and that's where I'd have an IEP as far as like how are you accommodating Michael so he can get through school. And so they would work with me there. And so I used to pray at night, like, please don't have them call on me to read, because I was so embarrassed. I was such a horrible reader. I don't want people to find out. They're going to say, oh, you can't even read, And so my schooling, I was unsuccessful and feeling unsuccessful at school. I hated school. And the way I became successful at school was I would misbehave, be class clown, and that's how I became successful. And that's, that's when I liked school. People like me. So
because you were having fun, basically, right?
Yeah, because I was having fun, stressing the teacher out. So, and then that's actually how I think I'm such a good organizer, because I would get the class like 11 o'clock. Okay, everybody's going to just grab their books and throw it on the ground. And so 11 o'clock would come around, and everybody would slam their books on the ground, like boom, 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 boom,
The teacher's like, what's
and
going
stress
on?
out the teacher. So I used to stress out the teachers. But I remember this, though, that after all the stress they give me, they still take the time. Come on, Michael, let me help you get past this. You know, I mean, they still take the time because every behavior is a attention-seeking behavior or sign of communication. So they picked up on that. That's what, you know, a good teacher will see that, you know, every behavior is some kind of attention-seeking behavior. And so they knew, you know, okay, he has a learning disability. This is why he misbehaves.
So you kind of adapted. You found a way to survive, basically, and that worked for you. Mm-hmm. And then, so how did that lead you into? Because it's funny because you said you went from hating school to now being heavily involved in the education system. Right. So how did that transition happen?
Okay, so after 3 years, I had to start on the very bottom, basic math, basic English, but you know, at Chabot.
Yeah, it takes. I give you a lot of credit though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I had to go back. Like, man, and I really regret though, like not. I was a really passive learner when it came to school in middle school, high school. Like I just give up. Like, oh, it's too hard. Let me just keep guessing here. Yeah. Had I just been persistent at that, like I wouldn't have to relearn everything that I learned in college, you know what I mean? Like that, like, man, those basic skills would have totally helped me out there. Phonemic awareness, you know, just the syntax and all that when it came to like writing and reading. But luckily in college, like college is way better than high school because you can pick what classes you're into. So I got into a lot of Chicano studies, classes I was into, social justice, you know what I mean, writing about stuff that I was really into. And actually it was a book that I read was it was in my English class called Savage Inequalities by Jonathan Kozel, and it was just a bit about how schools are segregated. They're still you know, underserving students of color, and you know, the mistreatment. And so when I read that, I said, this is what I want to do. I knew exactly what I want to do the rest of my life.
So it was that book. Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
And then it also did help that my sister like went into teaching. Okay. She was a teacher, you know, and so I had a big sister. She was doing her thing. So
how did your sister get into teaching?
She was always, you know, I mean, like motherly, you know, I mean, taken care
Nurturing.
of. So and so I don't know exactly what it was, but I know my sister was a cheerleader, and like always in you know, high school and even below that, and even at Chabot she was a cheerleader, and then she also did like the youth group, and she would little cheerleader squad, she would, you know, I mean, work with them. So she had that kind of background already, like she was helping out and with the youth group and helping out in the church, and she got a job at the preschool. She got a job at the it's Our Lady of the Rosary Church. She was a teacher there, and so, you know, progressed into public school, you know.
Okay.
So,
and where does she teach now?
San Jose.
San Jose. Okay. Is she like high school?
Elementary.
Elementary. Okay. So
Third
both
grade.
of you guys have been kind of like in elementary.
Yeah.
So you guys like the kids.
Yeah. I mean, that's your when you get your credential, that's like the widest.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, see the problem with like secondary is you have to like specialize in something though. So your credential is only for that maybe English and history or math and science. You kind of pigeonholed in there. You can't teach really any other subject than that. So like the multiple subject, I teach everything, and I can be specific in one subject. So like,
is there a favorite subject that you love to teach?
PE.
I love PE. That's my
lunch.
favorite.
Lunch. Still slacking off, Mike. Come on.
PE is fun.
Just kidding. What is it about PE? Is it really PE, or are we just saying that?
No. I mean, you know what? I really don't have a favorite. Really, I like more like connecting with the kids. Like you know, I mean, when we like a good writing project, when we're into something, you know, they can tell about themselves. I mean, there's just moments throughout the day when you're a success. Sometimes science, like we do a science project that's amazing. The kids have fun. Yeah. I like art. You know, I mean, art is fun. You know, teaching art and doing that. So.
Yeah. Okay. And so you let's talk about your teaching journey. So now you're on your teaching journey. You read the book, and you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. Right. How old were you when that happened? 20, 21, 22. I was I'm not too
quite sure.
Was that still in the Bay Area? Or
Still in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you start your teaching journey. Let's talk about that.
Right,
What was the
right.
next step after that?
So getting through Chabot, all those classes,
Okay.
and then I got my A and then transferred. The only problem was I was working at the city of Hayward, and I was reading reading whatever I was into. You know, I like biographies. I like people's stories, like hearing about their stories, how they
Yeah.
persevered.
Mm-hmm.
I think the story like really helped me shape me. Was the autobiography of Malcolm X? If you read that,
Okay.
that story, it gives me courage every time I read it. You know, what I mean, it kind of gives me courage. I don't know I have in. You know, what I mean, and I think this person can do it. I can do it too. Kind of really motivating. You know, what I mean, so stories like that adversity, they accomplish something, and they've been through something, a struggle. No struggle without, or no progress without struggle. So I like hearing those stories. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you went to Chabot, and then what happened after that?
So I knew I couldn't. I mean, I could, I guess, but there's a lot of distractions in the Bay Area. You know, I mean, the friends, a lot of my elements. Even today, I'm the only male Gonzales, actually on both sides of my family, that graduated from college.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
yeah. But when I was a senior, like most of my friends were gone. They dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
They went to the continuation school, or they moved away. And so I was like damn near by myself in my senior year. You know, I'm like, where are my
Where'd all my
friends?
friends
you know?
go? Yeah. That happened to me too.
Yeah. And some of them actually died too. So
Wow.
yeah. And so, most of my friends were potheads. They're still partying. And, I knew I had to get away. Like, let me just submerge myself into my reading, books, studies. That's what I need to do if I really want to become a teacher. I knew I had to do that. And so the move was to get out. And so L.A. and my cousins, Mauricio and Daniel, were the ones who were like, man, you got to come down south. Like it's all good here. Like it's fun, And so, I was visiting. I was like, I started liking it more and more. I remember when, actually Isaac, me, you, Daniel, right?
Yeah.
Daniel, yeah. We went to down south, and you guys were planning on moving. Yeah.
Then Daniel
and
bailed on me at the last minute.
And so I was like, no, I'm cool. Life is good in the Bay Area for me.
Yeah.
And so, and then the more they came out here, and the more I came out here, and I liked it, and so I was like, man, I'm gonna go down south, Cal State LA. I don't know if I said Cal State LA, or were you?
I was going to Cal State LA.
You're the one. Yeah. But you're the one who's like, Cal State LA is where I want to go.
Yeah, funny story, because I was also, it's kind of like the same thing. Like I grew up in San Jose. It started getting very small for me, and I needed to get out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would go down and visit, and I went to just visit the school, and I was in shock because it was the first college I ever went to that was majority minorities.
Mm-hmm.
Like most colleges, nothing against it, but it's like white and Asian and maybe now Indian, right? Or majority of the people at most colleges, right? And so when I went to Cal State LA, at first I was like, East LA. I'm like, what kind of school would be, in East LA? And then I went to the campus, and I just fell in love instantly because it was so diverse, like just so many, and it was majority Hispanic.
Yeah.
I just kind of felt like I found what I was looking for at the time as far as a group of people. So I was like, that's it. I'm going to Cal State LA. And Daniel, by the way, we had an agreement already. We were going to move down there. We were going to go to Cal State LA. We were going to share housing at Cal State LA. But then that dude bails on me the last minute and says I can't go.
And if you can backtrack, you guys were roommates at Cal State Hayward / East Bay.
So that was in the '99 when I was working for the Raiders, and my dream was to work for the Raiders and then go to Cal State Hayward, which is what they used to call it before it was East Bay. Well, that didn't work out, right? So then I said I want to go to LA. And then, everything that bad that happens to you is usually for a good reason, right?
Yeah.
So when Daniel bailed on me, which is fine, he ended up moving down there, but he went to Dominguez Hills. That's what happened. Like, we were both supposed to go to Cal State LA, but I understand because that's where baseball was better for him, right? So at the last minute, I didn't have a roommate. I kind of got left out. But then what happened after that was my parents were like, okay, well, we're going to help you because they're real estate investors. They're like, we want to buy real estate down there. And then my uncle, I don't know if you remember my uncle Richard.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and he kind of reminds me of you a little bit, right? Richard was like, there's a big area right now. It's Diamond Bar. You can get properties for $119,000. We got a condo, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's what brought us down to L.A. And I went to Cal State L.A. Is that where you went to school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what year did you graduate from Cal State LA?
06 with a credential and bachelor's. Like I took care of both of it. You know, I got it all. You know, it's equivalent to a master's. It's what I got.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But by the way, when we graduated from college, a bachelor's was good enough. Like, well, back in those early 2000s, like a bachelor's was like, now it's like, you know, a master's is like a degree, and a bachelor's is like a high school diploma. Right.
Everybody got a bachelor's. It's an AA.
But back then, like a bachelor's was like the big accomplishment, right? Now it's completely different. So let's talk about Cal State LA.
Okay, just a quick story before we get off Chabot, though. I used to take my paper to Isaac to proofread my English paper, and he would go through it, like, you know, fix all the grammatical errors and so I appreciate that, Isaac.
Yeah,
We'd hang out like,
you're welcome. Yeah,
we go hang out with Daniel and Isaac because I know Isaac will help me out with my paper, and so and he gave me good advice. Like, okay, you need this, you need to quote your source right here, and you know, and so I appreciate that. I want to thank you for that. Though, so.
My pleasure, man. And I mean, English was always easy for me. Like, you know, some subjects are really easy for some, but math was like, I struggled to get a C in like algebra. Like that's how, but I had a really bad teacher at Del Mar. He got fired halfway through the year.
Wow.
So teachers are very important because I believe if I had a good teacher in those like formative years of learning, I think my math would have, even to this day, I struggle with math. I don't know. I think I'm just a creative brain, period.
Yeah.
But I struggled in math just because of that one bad teacher. Like, it was crazy. But you're welcome, and I'm glad it helped you. Obviously, you're free on your career, you know. Hey, we pay it forward, man. Now you're here on my podcast, so here we go, right?
So I figured I got to do you a favor here.
Yeah, thanks for the prop.
Solid.
Thanks for the prop.
Pay it back here.
That.
Here it
I
is, right here.
Appreciate that. All right.
Oh, so getting back to Cal State LA. All I knew when, you know, LA, what it really meant to me, you know, forget Hollywood, forget the beach. What romanticized me about LA, and I like the gangster elements. The hoods, you know what I mean? So East LA, you know what I mean? There's so many movies, so many books I've read that romanticize, you know, barrio life. And then South Central too. And that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to explore those areas. And so Cal State LA in the heart of East LA, Rudy Acuna said that is, East LA is the pinnacle of Chicano culture. And so I love, you know what I mean? I adhere to my Chicano roots. And so it was true. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it so much. You know what I mean? The food for the soul, you know what I mean? And so here I am at Cal State LA. And what happened was I sold my Chevelle. I saved up. I was planning on it. And I went house with my parents on a condo. And we had a condo, and I knew I'd have my cousins to rent out the rooms. And of course, Daniel bailed on me again.
Of course, right?
And I found another roommate. And I found another roommate. And so they were helping out pay the mortgage. And I had, what's cool is when you're that old in college, I was 25 at Cal State LA, they don't look to your parents as far as income. They look at what you got. And so I was qualified for financial aid, so I didn't pay for any college.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I got that completely free.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. And then I got student loans. And because I knew I was going to be a teacher, and I knew Title I, you know, would pay back these loans. And so, you know, I was paying my mortgage, live very humble. I'm good with my money, and so I was not splurging. I had my same car, little Honda, and you know, that's how I lived my life. And so it was just a great experience. And I kid you not, sometimes I'd be in that library studying for like 6 hours at Cal State LA library, second floor, all the way in the back.
Yeah. I remember a funny story about that library. I think it's a library. Do they have study rooms, like little rooms you can go in there?
Yeah.
So my last year, 2003, that's when I graduated. I had to take this business class. I don't remember what it was, but you would not even graduate if you didn't pass this class. And we would always meet our little group in the library and the thing. And like the whole time I told her the story, I created a commercial for our team because we were like struggling the whole class. You had to create a business or whatever. But anyways, I created a commercial, but I just remember we used to meet always in those little rooms in the library, like we're a little corporation, like little board of directors or whatever. Yeah, I love Cal State LA, man. Like,
I know.
I miss it so much.
Quarterly too. You know, it's hard to find a quarterly school. You know?
Yeah, that's
so
true.
it keeps you disciplined. Like you know, like the finals coming up. You know,
Yeah.
there's no downtime. There's no spring break. You gotta keep moving. So
Yeah.
actually, we did connect. I remember going to King Taco with you
Oh, they had 2 King Tacos on
Right.
campus.
in Salazar Hall.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember going there with you. But all your classes were on that side. I was more in King Hall.
Yeah.
That's where most of my classes were, the humanities.
Yeah, because I was on the business side,
Yeah.
and then you were on the humanities side.
Right.
So, but it's just an amazing school. Like, I mean, I met so many people from different cultures. Like, I met people from Ethiopia, from Japan. Like, I just had so many friends from like different countries. That's why I loved it so much. Any cool stories from Cal State LA?
That was I did a lot of dating.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Don't
girls.
even start
I remember like
Yeah.
who I liked in the class. I'd sit next to them and
Yeah.
just keep hitting on them like every day, hitting on them. And then they
Persistent.
were like, "All right, Gonzales, give me your number. Let's go."
You're like, you don't know they call me Big Mike G, right? That's awesome.
But no, yeah, just I mean that is the best. Like as far as dating, nightclubs, you meet them here and there. But in college, I mean, meeting girls and,
Yeah.
and that was that was it. I was, and it's mostly women there too. So yeah.
That's what
Mostly
really,
women.
that's what really sold me on Los Angeles, because coming from San Jose, like it's a big city, but the San Jose or the Bay Area we grew up in, it can be very small because
Yeah.
it's all your group of friends, right? And when we started going down to Southern California and we started going to clubs, the women would be 15 deep. Like, they would mob 15 to, and they were all beautiful. Like, you're just like, what the heck? Like, those women would be so stuck up in the Bay Area
Yeah.
because they would be like 12s here, and over there they're like 7s and 8s because there's so many of them. Like, if you hit on one and she disses you, she's got 15 other friends that one
Right.
of them's gonna like you. You know what I mean? So they're not like stuck
Yes.
up.
So
Yeah.
it's a number, 3/4 of the population live down south, and so you got city after city. So your numbers are in your favor.
Yeah.
So.
It's crazy because like driving in Southern California takes so long, but you're going from city to city, so you don't feel like you're traveling a long distance. Like every 5 minutes is a new area code, a new
Yeah.
20,000 people that don't even know or
Right.
talk to the people in the other ones. But yeah, Cal State LA was an amazing school. So when did you graduate?
And it was very like collaborative though. Like
Yeah.
so many group projects you would do there.
Yeah.
So that was great. And
Yeah.
it kind of forced you to socialize. Because that's so important though. People don't take for granted. You're not always going to be in your cubicle. I mean, you're going to need help. You're going to need to work collaboratively with other folks. You
Yeah.
got to be able to network. And so, I mean, that was good. In Cal State LA.
Yeah.
And I would always actually park. They call it Cardiac Hill. I don't know if you ever parked there. It's
I don't know if it was called Cardiac Hill. But
yeah, so this is one parking lot that really nobody, you can always
so it
find
was, like,
parking
way-
readily.
way at the top.
Yeah, you got to go up like 10 flights of stairs to go
Oh
to
my
the top.
gosh.
Yeah, and so I'd have my backpack and run up it every time. And so, great exercise. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that. So,
Yeah, so I love Cal State LA, especially for business, because it's an accredited business school, which means it was up there on par with Obispo and all the other schools. So my small business teacher, his name was Mr. Estrada, he used to work for President Clinton's staff. He was the director of the Small Business Bureau for President Clinton. My marketing teacher, he actually invented the salad bar in Carl's Jr. I don't know if it's Carl's Jr. or Burger King. Carl's Jr. They used to have the salad bar. He was the inventor of the salad bar. Like that whole idea.
you mean Carl's Jr., where do you get your bike stolen?
That's so funny. I forgot it was Carl's Jr.
1 minute.
oh
Daniel Mauricio,
God.
you got your
Is
bike
it like a
stolen?
motorcycle or just a
No,
bicycle?
it was a bicycle.
Okay.
We were like, how old were we? Maybe 12, 13?
But they just order their food and look back, and their bikes were gone.
literally
Wow.
like a minute.
Mhm.
Like
Okay.
1 minute.
I had just gotten the bike too. I was so happy. It was a brand new bike, and I went to order my food, and that thing was ghost. It was gone. I started crying, I think. I was so young. But yeah, so I love Cal State LA, especially for business, because it's accredited. So all the teachers have to have a master's degree in the subject they teach, and they have to have some type of experience working in that area. So, I mean, it was awesome. But just real quick, I want to tell a quick story about, we talked about women, right? Southern California is just amazing. But talking about, you said you would meet girls in class. So I used to really like this girl in class, right? And this was before I had lost all the weight and got into really good shape. And I used to try to talk to her, and she like dissed me, right? She thought she was too good for me. And then like 6 months later, I lost like 40 pounds. I was in the best shape of my life. And I was like tan. And I remember they used to have a little shopping, like little flea market. Do you remember that? And I was looking for sunglasses, and she's looking at me, and she's like staring, and she hits a pole. She's like, boom, runs into a pole. And I was like, ah. Anyways, that was kind of funny. But anyways, it's not about me. Let's get back to you. So yeah, it was funny. So that just made you feel good. You know what I mean?
And then a quick story though. So it was cool. Was Mauricio, Daniel, my cousins, and I started Cal State LA the same quarter, and they struggled though. And what was cool was I took all teacher classes. So I took like an art for teachers, a music for teachers, and like a history class. And so my homework, they were like studying their brains out, like, man, why do we get into this college? You know, this is too much for us. I was just playing the recorder. And then I had like art prod, like for kids, you know, making Play-Doh. They're like, what the hell? You know, like, it's like this college, baby.
That's awesome. Hey, but you know, I think the best part about it was that you were doing what you love. Like it wasn't even work for you. You know what I mean? Like you had a purpose. You know what I mean? So you graduated in 2006, right?
Yes.
What's the next step after that? What happens after that? Because I know you had a very successful career down in Southern California in the education. So take us down that little road.
All right. So my senior year, I got a job, Eastman Avenue. Eastman Avenue, I was a teacher assistant, and then I also did my student teaching. So that exposed me, N.E.A. U.S.D, the biggest biggest school district in California, second biggest in the nation. So at the time I started, there was like 45,000 educators just in that school district. You know, so,
Jesus.
Yeah, it's huge. It's the biggest employer in Los Angeles.
There's a lot of people down there.
So, and if you think about like, there's carpenter, there's plumbers for the district. There's like so many jobs with just cafeteria. There's just so many jobs within the district. So it was an easy transition from Cal State LA, which happens to be the biggest teacher school in California, and so it was an easy transition into that N.E.A. U.S.D. They already had my my number, my employee number, all my information tested. You got to get TV tests and whatnot, and so they hired me, and so I seen all the jobs were in the hood, like. And I applied in Watts. I didn't get that job, but it was right across the street from the projects. I'm not too sure exactly what projects in Watts. If you say one of the big names,
I'm not familiar.
Jordan Downs projects. It was actually, which is a major project. The Crips over there, run that. I didn't get that job. But my friend, I know my friend is like, do it, get out there. Like, like I was like, I was a little fearful of the neighborhood. He's like, man, go get out there. You're like, go do that, Kids are kids. And so anyways, I got a job, 49th Street Elementary, got hired there. And, I just, there's a need for, I'm single, Latino, and I didn't, don't have any kids, and so I could just focus on teaching. And so, half of the year went well, but I had a 5th grade class, and so that 5th grade class, that's the last year before they go into middle school, and so they had, that's when their hormones took off, and so they get crazy at the end of the year. Like back. People were telling me, like, watch out the end of the year.
Oh wow.
So anyways, my first year, you never forget your kids the first year of school.
So you taught 5th grade?
I taught 5th grade.
Okay.
I got hired for 4th, and I go to show it up to set up. He's like, "No, I was like, "It says 5th grade. I thought I was 4th grade." He's on. "Oh, did I make that mistake? You're 5th grade." Like what? Like I didn't want that.
I'm giving you the crazy kids.
I didn't want that.
Rookie.
What was your first day like?
Well, you know what? The first 2 minutes. You know what's crazy? The first 2 minutes. There's one parent, kids are in there, I'm ready to roll, and she's jumping up and down. One parent's jumping up and down. Maestro, like what? Like I'm ready to introduce myself. Hi, boys and girls. And so she calls me over there and tells me about her daughter. Her daughter was molested. And like she's telling me that right off the bat. Like I haven't even started class.
Yeah.
And her cousin,
her
cousin did this. Like, so I just want to tell you about her. And she's telling me all this in Spanish. And but anyways, I did get her counseling and everything worked out. And
wow,
it was great. Yeah, it was.
So
great.
you already made an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was cool. Yeah, work with her. And but that was like the very first thing. But kids are kids. And they were tracks. It was a year-round school. Track B. I was track B, room 50. Yeah, it was great. It was cool.
And then
that was my first year of teaching.
Okay. So your first year of teaching, you expected to go into fourth grade.
And then of course I expected to go to fourth grade. But halfway through the year, like a lot of things in life, I questioned myself, like, what the heck was I thinking? Like, I'm no teacher. Like, man, this is too hard. Why did I think of that?
Yeah.
And so, but at the end of the year, I was like, I loved it. Like that. This is me. This is cool.
So that year you figured out, okay, this is where I belong.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So the next year, and actually I posted this on my social media, and I found pictures of myself. I got this other fifth grade class, and the first week at school, they try to test me. Like, dude, you don't know me. Like you're already trying to test me, like misbehaving. I need to get this down before anything else. If I don't have classroom management, if you don't have classroom management, you're not a good teacher. They're just somewhere else. Like you got to keep them engaged. And so, so I got upset. I said, I'm going to visit every single one of your houses. I'm going to get to know your parents. Like this can't go on here. And like, no, I need to work with your parents. And so. First week of school, I'm visiting, 3 houses a night. I had the list, their address, and this is in the hood. It was rough. And so I went there, and then again, halfway through that list, first week of school, you're exhausted. The first week of school, there's like so much that needs to be covered. There's so much preparation and teaching. I self-doubted myself. I said, what the hell was I thinking? This is the worst decision I ever made. But anyways, I got through the whole. I got through all the students, visited them all, and I was like, man, that's the best decision I ever made because I had that connection with them. I knew their parents, and so I would tell them, how's Marty doing? Do I need to call Marty or You
got to know which one they're most afraid of, right? Yeah.
So I knew there were siblings. I got to know like all of them. But one part of my social media post, I put Oscar. I got to go to Oscar's house, and Oscar didn't speak a word of English. But he was so popular in the class because he was great at soccer. So anyways, I rolled up to his house. He's playing soccer in front, kicking the ball against the curb. And it's the hood. It's dirty, and he told me his mom's gonna will be back. She was selling elote and other little snacks. So she came back and got to talk to her, and she fed me so well. I think she cooked something for me too. She's from Michoacan. She's a little older.
Yeah.
And I knew something was a little like wrong with her, but she was like really grateful. Like everybody I met, like all the parents like loved me. Maestro, pásale. Trying to offer me a beer, and like no. And so, but anyway, she died a couple months later after that, though. So sad. And so Oscar never really lashed out. I had such a good rapport with him. And I'm like so grateful that I got to meet all their parents and Oscar. Just Oscar was cool. We wrote it out together. We got through it. And so that was great.
What inspired you to meet their parents? Did most teachers do that? Or was that
nobody does that, especially today. You don't do that.
Crazy.
A male teacher.
Yeah. That's pretty smart. Number one.
Yeah.
Because you connected with them.
Right.
You made them. You made the kids realize you care.
Yeah, they matter.
Yeah,
for sure.
So what sparked that? Because I've never heard that before. That's pretty awesome.
Some crazy, like I want to be a teacher. Like what are you thinking? Like you want to be a teacher? Like
that just tells me you were meant for this.
Yeah. So
stand and deliver.
Right. And then what actually even better, because we had so many fights and going on. I remember my first year teaching. 2 of my students got into a fight. He knocked his teeth out. Like had to go pick up his teeth on the yard, and so they were fighting. You know, I mean, it was really like because track B didn't like track A students. It's like this game, you know. And track A was always known for they were the project kids, you know, what I mean, too. Yeah. So when they come on, you know, I mean, like, oh man, it's gonna be crazy. They're gonna be fighting, you know.
Wow, that's crazy.
So what I did was a soccer league. I asked the principal; he was able to give me money, and I bought soccer posts that kind of fold up, and so I'd be out there 3 days a week.
Wow.
I would be refereeing. I had the whistle, you know what I mean, had everything lined up, and we'd play, you know what I mean. Yeah, Mr. Gonzales' class versus Mr. Mendoza. We had tournaments, you know what I mean, and so, and you know, I had 10 in each side. Get in your position, you know, and we do sudden death at the end, and the kids loved it though, and I did that like the whole year, you know, and so that's what also like kept the kids. Mm-hmm. They love, you know what I mean. Yeah. And so like Oscar, who didn't speak a word of English, he knew every bad word though in English. He thrived on that, you know. Man, he was so popular. Everybody loved him. He was a superstar. Oscar, the best student,
so
by
far. Basically saved his life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's crazy. So you went and met with each kid's parents, which no one ever does. That's like leadership to me, you know. Mm-hmm. And then you took leadership and you created a league, because they say sports is what keeps kids out of trouble.
Right. Well, there's so many, like art keeps kids there. Yeah. And there's so many things that keeps kids like engaged with what's going on. You know, Chicano studies too. Yeah. You know, I mean that's what kept me engaged. So did
the soccer continue after you left, or was it done? Oh wow,
done. Well, and then it's by seniority, and so I did not get the following year. It kind of stopped because I got bumped out of 5th grade, and the only thing that was open was 4th grade, and so we have a different lunch, and so it really did not work out. I tried it, but it didn't really work out as successful. And then I got limited, and 3rd grade open. I was a 3rd grade teacher, and so it really didn't have as much significance as it was. The oldest kids were the 5th graders, and so 5th graders needed that. You know, they're sweating, hormones. You know, I mean, that is the perfect year. You know, I mean,
puberty years, right?
Yeah.
So 5th grade, that's like.
And I'd have boys and girls in there. It wasn't just girls and boys. You know, I mean, I had girls in there. You know, some of the girls were whooping on the boys.
Yeah.
You taught them competition. You taught them teamwork. Like it's crazy.
And I'd get everybody to play. Like, okay, subs.
Yeah.
You know, take out. Like, you need to come out. You've been in there too long, the whole game. Yeah. So
I think you literally I think that year was an Oscar year or something. Like something that you were like a guardian angel. You came down and helped him because you know he lost his mom later on in life. But you were like a savior for him that year, because without that league, he might have struggled more in school because he couldn't speak English. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that was powerful. So then let's talk about the rest of your career. Now you're moving on up, right? So after that, how did your career go?
Well, so the other part of it was my first year. I got 3 extra new students. Like what? And then my colleagues, they broke it down to me like, this is norm day. The charter school got their money. Now they're kicking these kids out. So and then so I learned, this is a behavior problem. Oh, this is because they got kicked out because they have a learning disability. They got kicked out because they're English learner. Yeah. And
so norm day, what is that?
So norm day is when you have to put in your numbers, how many kids you have, and that becomes, you got to keep the money at that school. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that'll make and break whether you're going to get rid of a teacher. You have to close the class because you don't have enough students, and so you want to push those numbers up high, so you can retain your kids, your teacher ratio, and so that's norm day, and so my last school I was at, we were always pushing every year, and actually, you know, we're under enrollment. The whole state of California is under enrollment. The numbers are not what they used to be. But we would try to, you know, like if you got a brother and sister, you got a cousin, bring them to our school. We're going to lose a teacher, you know. Yeah. So, but anyways, the charters don't play by the same rules as public schools. Okay. It wasn't until recently they have to be more accountable to the public, and people are catching up to their shams, and so they are considered a public school but ran privately.
So that's what a charter school is.
That's what corporate charter for-profit school. I mean,
Just
there's a whole
corporate and profit probably do not belong
Right.
in education. you know?
yeah. So I mean, I can go on and talk about that. But anyways, that's when it first started me. Like, inequality here. Okay, I
Yeah.
see what's going on here.
So they would
And they would poach. They would cherry pick our best students. Like, come to our. We got a uniform. You can wear.
Oh wow.
And
recruiting.
Yeah, they recruit, and so competition. So second year, what happened also is they said the district said if there's vacancies, they can go ahead and set up a charter school. So half the school would be a charter school. It wouldn't be 49th Street Elementary. It would be 49th Street Elementary on one side, and whatever kind of charter, like what's big around here in San Jose is Rocket Ship Charter.
Okay.
They're huge around here. So it could be Rocket Ship and 49, so you have to share the same resources. You have to share the same restrooms, library, break rooms, you have to share the yard, there's like so many things you have to share. So it creates competition, too.
Yeah.
And so, but they were going to put a high school on our campus with our elementary, so that the high school kids would be sharing the same restroom as kindergarten students. How crazy is that?
make
Yeah, it
sense.
doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. And also how they get away with stuff. They were saying vacancies, like our parent center. They're like, no, that's a classroom. No, we use it for the parents. So the library, computer lab, and just all those things they try to add up and try to weasel their way. And that's when I started organizing and got the my colleagues riled up. The old site rep, union rep there, she's like, I'm retiring this year. Like, Gonzales, like, honestly, I don't have the energy. I'm about to retire. I'm going to be gone in a couple months. And so that's when she kind of like passed the throne down to me,
She passed
the
it to
torch
you.
to me.
Yeah.
And so I organized a huge protest. We marched around when they came to visit, and we even stormed the building, and like we were just protesting with our signs, like
That's
charter
awesome.
school out. And so they decided not to stay there, and they were gone. That was our first victory, and I was behind it.
So the
you know,
the charter school, which was basically a corporation, tried to come and take the public schools' resources.
Yeah, half the school.
So they took half. They said basically.
And what they do, they don't stop at half. They want more. They keep,
Wow.
if they keep getting enrollment, like, hey, we need another class.
Yeah.
And so it's competition. And so that was one thing. Again, I can keep going on and on.
But so if it weren't for you, that would probably still be happening there,
Yeah.
right?
Well, just at that site,
Just
it
at
happens
that
everywhere. It
Oh,
happens
wow.
all the time, and I help folks fight that too.
Okay.
So, all right. So that was one thing, and then public school choice came out, and so what that said is, we passed a bond to build all these new schools because they need it. 49th Street, for example, is over 100 years old school, dilapidated.
Yeah.
In ruins, bungalows, tons of bungalows. They were only meant to be temporary. So they built brand new schools to alleviate the overcrowding, and so that I was very grateful that my kids are going to go to a brand new school. Some of my kids that live by that school are going to go to a brand new school. That's cool. You know what I mean? But with this public school choice, the district said anybody who wants it can bid on it. Whoever has the best school plan will get the school. And so our school board is elected officials, and so a lot of them are corrupt, and so even Antonio Viragosa, he was corrupt. He ran for governor, and all the money, if you follow that dark money where it came from the California Charter Schools
Wow.
Association, and so he got tons of money from them, and they have always been in L.A. trying to infiltrate and run out their plan, and they've been successful, so they're dumping tons of money on school board candidates for their elections.
Wow.
I think our last one they spent $11 million on a school board race.
For a school
For a
board race?
school board race, yeah.
For elementary school?
No, it's N.E.A, the
Oh,
entire.
okay,
Yeah.
that's all.
But I was just in
But
elementary.
still,
but, yeah.
Wow. And that's taxpayer money.
It's corporate money that wherever they.
Oh, the charter.
No. So the Charter Association, their goal, their campaign is to more charter schools.
Okay,
spread
yeah.
out the charter schools, and so we have like Eli Broad, the Walton family. which are from Walmart, and so a lot of
Jeez,
corporations, a lot of folks they want to privatize public
Yeah.
education. That's their goal. You know, I mean, they want to segregate schools. So, anyways, they do that. So public school choice, and so I had to organize a team from different schools, and go out and put together a team, put together a plan. And so I organized all these people to come together, and we came out with all the components, the best kind of instructional plan, research over 2 years, free of our time. Like every other day, we get together and do writing to come up with the best plan, research, go visit schools. And so we came up with, that's where Smart Academy came in, our dream school we want. And so 2 years later, the board approved it. They said they liked it. But we had to compete, like I said, with charters. They're paid writers, school plan, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And we had to compete with them. So
Smart Academy, how did you come up with that name?
Science, Math, and Art Academy.
Science,
A
Math,
nice,
Art.
cool
Oh.
acronym, Smart Academy. We smart here, so.
That was pretty smart there, Mike.
Yeah, but our plan
Simple.
was like so ambitious in there, Dream School, we're going to have this, we're going to have that.
Yeah.
So it meant a lot of professional development for the teachers. That year I got pink slipped, and so even when it opened up, wasn't able to work there because I got pink slip.
What is pink slip?
Pink slip means you're laid off,
Oh.
because like my third year of teaching, I got a pink slip. Because they were making cuts, and so first hired, first fired, and then it's
What year was that?
And it's only fair 2010.
Okay.
Or no, 2008. Yeah, 2008.
So that was like
9.
around the crash.
Yeah.
So was it the
Exactly.
whole collapse? Is that
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so so that happened. Got a pink slip, and like I said, I was glad that I didn't get hired because it was so ambitious. But we got to pick the people we wanted to go in that school. We hired them. We hired our principal. I know she was part of the plan too. So I know the school's in good hands. It was very successful. But I was glad I didn't get hired there. Because it was a lot of work there, and I knew, like I said, when things happen in life, your life is written out. Maktub, which is the Arabic saying.
You
it
say
is written-
Maktub?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's from my favorite book, The Alchemist.
Alchemist. That's
Oh,
where I
wow.
got it from
I was
too,
gonna
and that's where I got it from.
I was gonna get that. I'm actually gonna get that tattoo on me.
That's
it's already
awesome.
written.
What is it again?
Maktub.
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 You want to spell it out for him?
No.
Yeah, it's Maktub.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway.
So, anyways, yeah.
Hey.
So that didn't happen there.
It's meant to be.
Yes.
So
you didn't actually ever work at the smart school.
no, I didn't.
You just
I never-
created.
Smart
it was
Academy.
created it.
a smart academy. I'm sorry. But your legacy's still there.
Right. So, yeah, I got pink slip, and then when I got pink slipped, I was ready to move back to the Bay because it was a long. Usually they give you pink slip, and they because by law you have to put them out by March, and then you'll let you know by the end of that school year that you're going to get hired back. But I didn't get hired back in summer. I was like ready to pack up, like ready to move back to the Bay. And then I get an email, I get a phone message saying report to Haddon Academy in Pacoima, California. I was like, where in the hell's that?
Where is that?
Yeah. And so it's in the San Fernando Valley, and I live in
Wow.
East LA, Montebello. And so,
So you commuted.
so I was like, and my friend talked me into it. She's like, dude, just go. You're going to go against traffic. It's going to be cool. It's a long drive. Leave early. Leave right after work. You'll be fine. So I was like, okay. And so I showed up there, and the principal's like, oh, I don't know where I'm going to put you. Like, maybe a 1, a 2, or a kinder, first grade you're going to teach. And so my experience mostly was with upper grades. And so I was, man, kinder. So anyways, I ended up teaching kinder that year in Pacoima. And also that same year, Parent Revolution showed up to that school.
Okay.
And if you don't know about Parent Revolution, there's also, I talk about the privatization movement, the Walton family, Eli Broad. They put behind money, like fake AstroTurf groups, that they pawned them off as community organizers. They're doing good for the community. And so there's a stupid law that came into play called the Parent Trigger Law. And so what it says, if you get enough petitions, you can change a public school into a charter school.
Wow.
So you can, or you can. So there's like 4 options. You can change it. You can just fire the principal, fire. You can do a conversion charter. You can close the school completely, shut it down. Anyways, there were some paid organizers going around that community in Pacoima where I was teaching at, and so that year I was just in my world teaching, kinder, and there's so much prep. By far the hardest year of my life as far as teaching, because there's so much preparation. And then my first week of school, the principal's like, yeah, you're going to get a kinder class. And so she went around to all the other kinder teachers, like, give me 5-year kids. Wow. And of course they ain't going to give the smartest kids. They're going to, they gave me the misfits, the ones they don't want, and so.
Oh, man. The ragtag army.
Oh, my goodness. I had the bunch right there. And so I struggled all year. But anyways, the principal asked me, he goes, hey, you've been around Gonzales. Do you know about this group called Parent Revolution? I was like, I sure do know about them, because I've been fighting them. I was organizing them there. And actually, Antonio Viragosa was backing them at the time. And that's when he came out with public school choice and how it's good for everybody, this and that. Parents got to be able to choose. They want charter or this, and so... And it's all like based on test scores too, and I learned about what test scores are all about, how to rig the system, kind of, and how they look down. That's a whole thing. Test scores, on how rigged that is. It's all about your test scores, whether you're a successful teacher or not. So
the scores your kids are getting in your classes.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, like one year, I actually just like taught to the test, I was like, okay, and so I had the highest test scores in my grade level, because I was just teaching them test strategy, and I got so much praise for being a successful teacher, even though I was not. I was just teaching to the test,
You were teaching them what they needed. You were teaching them how to pass the test.
Exactly, yeah. And so I was just like driving that home, like, okay, just going over poor kids, just test strategies, But
they were your test strategy.
That's what everybody looks at, like, wow, that means they're smart, Anyways, that's a whole nother story, and so that is a determining factor that Antonio Viragosa, the privatizers, that movement was trying to looking at a school. Look at the test scores; they're failing. This is a horrible school,
So Viragosa is like the Walton's puppet, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. And so anyways,
they have lobbyists in schools. That's insane. That's what the parent thing is, lobbying basically.
So anyways, what happened was there was an organizer, and then the principal heard about them. She said, you ever heard about this? And so I knew from that rally I went to, I was protesting against Viragosa, that he had the Parent Revolution group, and I knew who they were. And this Ben Austin is his name. He's a corrupt guy too, funding them, a spokesperson for them. And I told the principal, I was like, you better be on that, this and that. Mm-hmm. And so the principal was at a staff meeting and told everybody what it's about. And so I spoke up there. I was like, this is what they're about. This is what they do. You guys don't sleep on it. This group will turn your school into a charter. And then I explained the trigger law. So I spoke up, boom, boom. I was hitting my points.
Yeah.
And so after the meeting, all these teachers came, because I'm brand new. Nobody knows me there.
Yeah.
And so, like, know about it. They didn't have a site rep there. You know what I mean? They didn't have a site rep, so they had no like union or no leadership there. And they're like, we want you to be our union rep. And so I thought about it. I was like, no, someone else, I don't know. I'm not even from this community. I got to go drive an hour home. I don't, I don't.
Far.
And so anyways, I said, okay. I said, I want a secretary. I want to pick my vice chair. I had everything I wanted, all my committees, and I had it all. I said, this is what I want. And they gave me everything I wanted. And so I became the chapter chair, which is a site rep there. And I organized a big community forum. We had over 500 people, parents, after school in the auditorium. Wow. I had volunteers from other schools that said they'll watch the kids so you can talk to the parents.
Wow.
So they came in, broke out rooms. They had rooms. They were playing with the kids, or keeping them entertained, and these are teachers from other schools, helping me out. And then I had all colleagues in a grade level, kinder parents, go in that room. They're going to talk to you. And then I had first grade, second, I had them all the kids, all the parents went to their separate rooms and we got input, and it was about making a school plan. What's your mission statement? What do you think our school should have? And so getting that feedback from them. That was our first one. And we did another community forum that based on your data, we shared, this is what we want. So really bringing in the parents and getting that buy-in. And then anyways, we were, and I did other things like that. And at the end of the year, we had a big celebration. Anyways, we fought them off that year. They didn't pull the parent trigger. They were not organized enough. They tried to get another organizer on top of that, work the community. And then that's when I got on the Pacoima Neighborhood Council, because they were going around trying to get city council. They were trying to get all these elected officials, trying to organize school board members. And so I got political, and that's an elected position. 75,000 people live in Pacoima. You have to get elected to that. And so I got elected on that. And I got with my girlfriend at the time. She was from Pacoima, born and raised, her family. And anyways, I ended up being with her 8 years or something like that. We even lived together, And
so you don't have to commute that much anymore.
Yeah. Well, check this out. And so I was like, how come nobody's organized? I come from South Central. We're organizing out there. That's what we do out there. And so I was like, there's no organize. Where's your groups out here? How can a out of towner paid organizer come in here and manipulate the parents? There needs to be some what's going on? I'm talking to the teachers and all that. And so I was like, I want to buy a house in Pacoima, and that's where I bought my first house. And I bought it because I want to be a community organizer, not because the value, I'm going to make some money, It was all about, I want to be planted in that community, so I can have that credibility. I'm from this community, paid organizers, outsiders out, And so I was able to do that. And so
you actually had two houses.
I sold that. We sold that condo. I took my half. And this is under my name, my house in Pacoima. That was my house, raggedy house, completely gutted it and remodeled. I had help from my uncles, and so.
Oh, so you moved from, was it Montebello?
Montebello to Pacoima.
To Pacoima. Oh, what year was that?
That was 2013.
Okay, good, got it. Wow, so you actually created a movement.
Yeah. So I was only at that school for 1 year, but I had so much love though from that school. My goodness,
you transformed it.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And so I was solid in that community, and even had parents and I found a really good organizer parent, and she told me, hey, they're organizing at this park over there. So we rolled through the park deep and educate parents what you guys you paid organizers, you guys need to leave, and this is what these all are about. Don't listen to them. I'm president of the Pacoima Neighborhood Council, and throwing my weight around there. I live right here, so.
You're like the organizer king, pretty much.
Yeah, and so, anyways, did all that. We did some amazing. I can go on and on about stories I did in Pacoima, organizing. I got really involved and met some good organizing groups actually out there, and became part of them. And it was great. But always in the back of my mind, when I first moved there, the weather was 8 degrees warmer than regular LA. And so that San Fernando heat was killing me, And so I was doing construction, so you got to cut outside. So you got to go in and out the house. And so that sun was draining me. And that's when I got homesick. And it's a bedroom community. And I missed LA, It was very lively, and, so much more going on there. And I was like, what you guys do out here? We go to house parties, house party. Well, I don't know people who got house parties. So I'm stuck, there's no bars around here. So that's when I was like, man, I want to go home. Michigan City, the Bay. So anyways, I went to this other school over there. Again, I try to go under the radar. I'm not involved with a union site rep.
Yeah.
And, they had a union rep, but I wasn't going to say anything. And I don't know how they found out, but they asked me to be the union rep there. And I became the union rep because I was involved with the P.T.A. there and the school site council. And and I don't know how they needed someone too, and so I stepped into that role, very casual, you know what I mean, under the radar. But then the strike came around, you know what I mean, and that's when you know. So here's the thing: is why I was so effective is because whenever there's a crisis, that's what brings people together. And
Yes.
so, at my other school, when I got hired, and that's a good story too, why I got hired there too. But so I got hired. We had a good principal that everybody liked him. You know what I mean? So they got along. So only when people are in crisis, there's a conflict where people come together. And so people were not coming together because there was no crisis. There was nothing to bring people together. No issue until the strike, though. And so the strike happened, and I told them that weekend. So I did a press conference. I said, we're going to do. And what's hard is people weren't involved with the union. You know, they don't want to help out. Like that's a union thing. That's not us. And so, anyways, how do you bring people together? And so I brought people together. That's so hard to do when there's no issue to bring people together. And I told them, I said, look, nobody wants to go on strike. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a trial rehearsal. We're going to have speakers. We're going to do this, and we're going to have our chants. Here's our chants we're going to do. And I called a press conference too. Wow. And we got on the news too. And I rolled my truck up, the back of the truck, dropped it down, and we had our speakers. We had a speaker out there, had my colleagues' kids, they were speaking, and had our other speakers. We had our chants, and and we had practicing. I made them practice marching with a picket sign, and so they did that, and they put that on film. Like, look how serious United Teachers Los Angeles are. They're practicing, so they ran that story, and. But anyways,
in training camp.
Yeah. And so, and then I had like a picket sign making. We did that. And so Monday rolls around, and we're going on strike, you know what I mean? And it's pouring in LA, major pouring going on. Yeah. So anyways, they came out and had, I just was so organized, and I had my partners, my teams, we were so organized. And we did our march, and it was pouring. And it was such a blessing, though, to have that rain, even though it was so hard, though, like pouring down, you in the picket, and miserable. And then we marched down to downtown. We had 50,000 in the street,
50,000 people?
50,000 people in the street,
While it was raining.
While it was raining. It was so graphic, too, the rain coming down. We're just marching and struggling. We got our signs, and the city shut down. And so, like I said, the blessing was the rain. A lot of parents don't take their kids when it's raining sometimes to school, and so they stayed home. But what was cool that first day, I remember this one parent. We're like, "Come on, let's go!" And she got in the car and she went, and I lost everybody, but just that parent. Me and her, we were like, people falling down. We're picking them up, and just we knew we had to get to downtown. We knew we had to get to the main district office. And so we made it there, and just me and her, she was helping me out, and it was just such a great experience. Then we come back and do picketing, and with our marches, we had our chants, and we were so good. And it was such a beautiful thing. And so that happened like every day. We do stuff like that. And what was I gonna say? Oh, when I came home, it was like I worked a construction job. I was so tired, exhausted, and then just exhausted. Then I wake up super excited. Let's do it again, and just super pumped up. We're gonna do it again.
That's how you know it was your passion. You're passionate about it.
So you put me in the street, I'm a freak out there.
They say when a man finds his purpose, he comes alive.
Yeah. So I was alive during that strike. Oh my goodness, that was so good. And then one of the other highlights also was everybody was together. It was kind of cliquey at my school, but we were together. We were breaking bread together. Went out to lunch together. Man, it was great. In the city, that was one time in LA where we ran the city. We were the gods of the city. We were getting free food. Man, it was great. Giving free rides, free metro. It was great though. We were running the city. But my highlight was we did a protest at the our local school board. She was sitting on her hands like, "Where are you at on the strike? Let's end this." So we called her out. We organized a protest in front of her office, and I even so I had at least 500 people out there. Had my speakers again, and rolled up on the illegally, and had my truck again, dropped it, had two speakers. Pouring again, and And yeah, somebody did Facebook Live and she was watching it the whole time, but at the end of that day, she came out in support of us. And so,
Wow.
so stuff like that. So, strikes matter. All the little things that happened during that. The Mayor Garcetti was in the middle. He let us use the office for negotiations, and we got every single thing we wanted, and it wasn't about money. We got, a nurse at every school, social workers, psychologists. We had something for special ed. We had class size reduction. It was like everything. Our kid, green space for kids. When I did that soccer league, it was all cement. There was no grass the kids would play on.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, community schools, like so much stuff we got.
LA's a lot like that, though. It just seems like you've always been in the right place at the right time as far as crisis goes in your career, and
or some would say the wrong.
No, I think it was the right place.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
But it's funny because you mentioned you read Malcolm X's book in the beginning of the podcast. You're kind of like becoming like a Malcolm X, a Martin Luther of the education system down there in Southern California. It kind of seems like that's your like you lit up when you started talking about marches and things for good, which is pretty awesome. So now you decide, hey, I want to go back to the Bay Area. So now you're coming back to the Bay. How'd that all go down?
Let's see. Well, so broke up with a girlfriend, living with a girlfriend, broke up. Like I had no excuse now why I can't go back to the Bay Area.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like she didn't want to go. Like she wasn't having it, and so
She was Pacoima.
yeah. So she was Pacoima, and so anyways, that year I knew the beginning of the year, like this is my year. It's now or never. Because I was placed and I got elected. Those are other stories where I got elected into my union in different races as far as like state delegate, national delegate. I ran, for all these other things and got those. So I was lined up to be successful in the union and officer. This is a full-time job. You're a full-time officer, and so I was set up for that, or I was set up for the state delegate. I was on that path, and the only thing I could like think of is like the only regret I would have, is not so much getting that job. Like, man, you could have that. People tell me like, dude, you're just lined up for that. Like, what? This is a dream. Like, your career is set. All you got to do is that. So I wouldn't have any regrets not getting that, but I would have regrets not spending time with my family. My parents are getting old. Nieces and nephews done grown up or adults now. I'm drinking at the bar. They don't know. Like, we just know you from the summer hanging out or the holidays. Yeah. But if I lost one of my parents, that would be the biggest regret of my life. Like, dude, you were gone the whole time in L.A. And so that's why I came back. For family. Like that would be a regret if I, and especially during this pandemic.
Yeah.
Like you just what's important in life, and what's important in life is your family and your health. That's all I want. You can forget all those other kind of titles or anything, wealth, and it's just all about family and health. And so I'm back. This is where I'm right place, right time.
Yeah.
McDo, so.
Yeah. And then you mentioned your family, right? So you come from a biracial family. Talk a little bit about that.
So growing up in Union City, I can't tell you how diverse it is and how rich in culture it is. Historically, so much significance in Union City. We knew. I know folks out there, that, hey, let's go try this one restaurant. This is, they're growing up like that at our potlucks in school. We had the curry, we had the lumpia. It wasn't chic. Try it. Like we know about that stuff. Because as Union City, we're just surrounded and emerged in so many cultures, and so that's Union City to me. And we knew each other's bad words and everybody's language, So just really appreciative of that in Union City, having that background. And so I was biracial. And so I'm on the lighter skin of things. And so I know when I was younger, my hair was really light. And so
same here.
So I got questioned, hey, white boy, or, güero, and this, like, I'm Mexican. And so I really adhere to my Mexican side, because that's what it was, mostly people of color. Is very the white folks would get messed with, and so like my uncle who lives in Dakota would fight all the time because he's blonde hair and and people fight him all the time, and try to test him. Miklo.
Color's not a color. It's the way you think and the way you live.
Right. Right. And so you get messed with in that area. But so going out, I was kind of not ashamed of my mom, but like when they see you, like, oh, you are white. Look at your mom,
Yeah.
But I know being with my dad, like my dad's dark mustachio really exemplified Chicano, what I mean? And so I was so proud of my dad. Like, it's my, I'm, kind of verify I'm Mexican, you see? And so that's where that came from. In my senior year, it's so funny. You had to do it was called Chihonki for, I'm sorry, my last year of college, you had to do a dissertation on that. And so that was my project, writing about Mexican-American and white, there's so many in this world. And just the complexity of that, you're not accepted by one or the other, and just giving their perspective, my perspective, a lot of famous people, Linda Carter, Catherine, she's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And then we got Daisy Duke, Kathleen.
You got big Mike G in the future.
Yeah, we got and then there's a
Isaac
couple other
Estrada.
ones. Yeah, we got a couple other ones out
not
there.
half,
Anyways, I did a paper on that, and so it was just telling my story. What and pretty much what everybody goes through. They.
So it's called.
They're not really. I called it. That was my title.
That was your title. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, that's first is the Smart Academy, and now Chihonki.
Chihonki, yeah. It might catch on. So.
Yeah.
I mean that's it. Biracial. You're not. It's hard to fit in one or the other. So.
Yeah. I totally understand because I'm not half, but my mom looks white, right? I have colored eyes, light skin, and it's weird because you're not accepted by either. You're not accepted by the white folks, and you're not accepted by the Hispanics. So I totally feel you on that one. So I mean, you're back in the Bay Area now. You got a lot of stuff going on. How can people find you? Give yourself a little plug right now. I know you're running for some stuff.
Okay, Mike G for New Haven. I'm running our district in Union City is called New Haven Unified School District, but it's MIKEG 4 and then New Haven, no slashes on there. If you want to go to my website, that's where it's at.
So say it one more time.
Mike G for newhaven.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can they find you like on any type of social media?
Instagram.
I mean, if you want to plug it, that's fine.
Or you want to keep it private.
Well, I'm working on that.
Okay.
I mean, so I'm very grassroots campaign. And that's another thing. I like a lot of people came in my life. My first year of teaching, I met this one teacher who went on and became the president of the school board of Los Angeles Unified. And I just happened to be with him, and that's how I started my first leadership conference in UTLA with him. He was campaigning, and he schooled me quick, though. My very first year, it's all about the school board. They're the ones making the decision. Don't think it's the superintendent. The school board can hold them accountable. We need to get people in there elected. And so right now, we need to, that's why I'm running. We got to hold our superintendent accountable. He'll run wild. And so no rubber stamps, and that's what's going on right now. And so that's why I'm running, so.
Here in the Bay Area?
Yeah, Union
So
City.
you're now deep in the middle of another movement.
Yes.
Wow.
School board race. And another thing I'm passionate about is school funding. We're ranked on the bottom 10 in the nation per pupil spending. We're ranked 41. When I first started teaching, was ranked 48 in per pupil spending. We were behind Mississippi. And the problem...
Mississippi?
Yeah. Wow. We don't spend that. Here we are, California. You put us up with other countries, France, and our economy is way better than them. We're so strong and the richest state in the union, and yet we're struggling for adequate funding for our students per pupil spending. Mm-hmm. And so I came up. I've been working on solutions. Worked on the millionaires tax, part of that coalition. Worked on Make It Fair, Prop 30. I was a full-time organizer for that. Prop 55, and now. It's called Schools and Communities First Initiative. It's Proposition 15. And so that's what I'm working on more. As much as I want to get elected, that's nice. That's kind of selfish for myself. I want to bring in $11.5 billion annually, and that's what Proposition 15 does. And it taxes commercial property, corporations. Proposition 13 was never intended. It was sold for residential. It's going to keep grandma in. It's not going to reassess every year. And so the loophole, it was never intended for corporations or commercial property. And so that's why we've been losing so much money, is because they're not paying their fair share of taxes. And so that's what Prop 15 is going to do. And I need that to pass more than I need to get elected. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we want you to get elected as well.
Yeah, so I want to go back to Maktub. I don't know many people who knows about that word and where they got it from, which is my favorite book, The Alchemist.
That's awesome.
Do you believe that your life is already written for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's powerful.
Well, just an example. When I did my student teaching, the person I was paired with, she was the site rep, the union rep. Okay, so that's one connection. And then when I was a student teacher, the person I was paired up with, my teacher I worked with, he was the union rep. He was big in the UTLA, and then he introduced me to Eda Santiago, who became my best friend, like a sister in LA, and she introduced me to Steve Zimmer, who became the president, and it was just like so many connections. Like this world, is written. Like you cannot right time, right place, and so that's why I believe it's so powerful. Like, thank you for this. So some of the worst things that you think that are like, questioning God, why did this happen to me? Turned out to be the best things that happened. Like, thank you for not letting me get that position or failing at that, because it opened the door to this. And so, I just always think that way, so, and here's another example too. I always wanted to do it, and what really pulled the trigger, I was just going to come back and teach, but I was sitting next to the guy who's from Union City, and I was asking him, because they went on strike last year, and I said, hey, are you, my parents live across the street from, they can put up a school sign. Who do you got for school board that's running? He goes, nobody. Shoot, I don't have anybody. I said, if I move back, I can run? Absolutely. Let me take your number, and so he got on it, and I got on it. And so that's what really sparked, and it just happened to be sitting next to him, happened to ask, and that's how I met him. So wow, powerful.
That's awesome. I think that job's for you.
It doesn't take time. It just takes alignment, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being here,
Thank
man.
you.
This
Honor.
was
It's an
amazing.
honor.
Yeah.
I knew it was special.
Yeah.
I knew
You're actually our
magic
first
was going to
guest,
happen
right?
here.
Yeah.
So.
And thank you guys for tuning in. This was amazing. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. This is a video podcast as well at The Bliss Seekers. And check us out on Instagram at Bliss Seekers. And, make sure you like, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. But again, thank you, Mike. Please help him out. Go out there and vote for Prop 15. And as always, follow your bliss.